Thank you for listening to Persian Women in Tech's podcast, Pivot Sheroes, created to introduce and elevate the profile of successful Iranian women in tech.
Thank you for listening to Persian Women in Tech's podcast, Pivot Sheroes, created to introduce and elevate the profile of successful Iranian women in tech. Hi, everyone. My name is Sepideh Nassiri, founder and CEO of Persian Women in Tech and Women of MENA in Technology. Today, we are here to introduce yet another Iranian woman in tech who has been successful going through her career path. And as you know, this podcast is here to introduce to you journeys and inspire you in your thrive or in your career path to get to your next level. I hope the journey that you hear today is going to inspire you to take the next step in your career path. Our guest today is Dr. Soodeh Farokhi. She's a tech entrepreneur, product leader, strategic executive, startup advisor, and last but not least, VP of product at Nakisa. Welcome, Dr. Soodeh. How are you?
Hi, Sepideh. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very good and here. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. A huge fan of Women of MENA in Tech. Wonderful initiative, Sepideh.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Soodeh, we always have different types of personality with us, and we try to spotlight Iranian women who have achieved so much in their career path in such an early stage in their life, and they still continue to push forward. I would love for you to introduce your background. And, I just gave an extended overview at 10,000 feet, but I would love for you to give a little bit of your journey of where you started and where you have landed today, for our audience to have a little bit of a background for you.
Sure. Thank you for the kind background already. As Sefi mentioned, I'm technology entrepreneur and currently the VP of product at Nakisa, which is an enterprise software company based in Canada. I'm also the former CTO and founder of a startup named C2RO. That was an enterprise AI video analytics software startup that I launched in 2016. I born and raised in a small city in Iran named Abadeh, south of Iran. My background is in software engineering. Started my career in 2008 in telecom space, and always I have been in enterprise software space as well. Established my career as a product and a tech leader, I would say. I quit my job after a few years and launched my first startup, a service company, when I was 27, back then in Iran. And I honestly found out that I'm an entrepreneur by heart. In 2013, I found I got a very good opportunity for a full-funded doctoral study in Vienna University of Technology. So I moved out and went to Vienna and pursue my PhD as a cloud computing researcher and graduated in 2016. But I had always in mind that I want to build my next startup. So I found an investor here in Montreal that I'm located right now. And I actually call it second home. And they were ready for investing in my idea. So I moved to Canada in 2016 and launched my product company that has been going very well. And very recently, I actually decided to continue with the next challenge, and I moved to a scale-up that is Nakisa. Because I'm a diversity and inclusion advocate, Nakisa is working in HR-related products. That's actually D&I is a big part of it. So I wanted to lead such an impactful product. I'm also a working mom of a 3-year-old girl, and again, I'm excited to be here with you today.
Thank you, Soodeh John. You just went through a journey of where you are today at such a high speed, but I know that it takes so much, from milestones and impact that we all have in our life to get where we are today. And that shapes really who we become and the choices we make in our career path. Was there anyone or anything that had a great impact on your life to take the journeys and the decisions that you have made in your path?
Yes, great question. So I would say maybe my childhood, I would say, let's say, role model was my elder brother that was always inspiring me, and he actually led me to get to that, educational path that I would say helped me a lot in my career. But maybe another event that had a very big impact in my life was my immigration abroad. Because have in mind, I come from a very small city. And back then, I think my world was that city and people that I knew. Then for my university, I studied at Shahid Beheshti University. I moved to Tehran and I realized, wow, this is actually, the world is much bigger, much larger than where I was living. And then when I immigrated to Vienna and Europe, I really see the world. And right now, I don't see any ceiling for my dream and imagination. And I think I'm very happy that I did that, and it kind of opened my eyes on looking at myself as a citizen of the world. And I'm again, it was a good decision, I would say.
You touched base on something that's really interesting, is the immigration aspect of things. Going into different cities, countries, exploring new mindset, innovation. And I think that can expose us to so much more opportunities. And it's clear that has taken path in your career as well, and given you opportunities just because of the journey that you chose to take. Through this journey, what was something that was the most challenging maybe moment in your life, or a challenging path that you have taken, and how did you overcome that situation?
I would say when I built my second company, I was so in love with the company because I was so excited. The company was so innovative. And back then, when I was thinking and deciding between abandoning my first child in a way, that was my company, and thinking of stepping into motherhood and get pregnant and have my real child, it was so challenging. Honestly, it was one of the most challenging things and decisions that I made. Over time, now my daughter is 3 years old, I learned that I need to separate and define my objectives for my personal life, family life, work, and professional lives separately, and set priorities to each of them. And that mindset, I think that shift in my mindset helped me to put my family first at that time, and honestly work towards a path and an approach that I went through that transition and had 6 months of maternity leave without negatively impacting my company. Through that, I built a very good maternity leave plan with my team. I empowered them. I presented the plan to the board. I kind of ensured them that I'm not gone. I will be back. And this is just a period of time that I need a bit of focus to my family. And honestly, I set the ground for other women. We had in the incubator that we had 3 other women went to maternity leave, and they followed the kind of the best practices that I had. And we set the ground for investors that we are not gone if we get pregnant. This is not a bad news if you hear a female founder is pregnant. And honestly, I'm very proud of that, because it was like a change, a big change in the lives of a lot of people. And I hope this continues. Like, it's not that if you are an entrepreneur, female entrepreneurs, you need to sacrifice your lives. In my view, this is not anymore the mindset that I have.
That's great to say. It's interesting what you just mentioned, and the journey of what's the perspective on motherhood, entrepreneurship, motherhood, and career path. And in today's society, when we're looking at how we can balance that, or how can employees and employers work together to balance that, it's a perfect example that you just mentioned, that you took it in your own hand to set an example and create a structure that others then followed as well. And this way, you created a role model, essentially, so that others can see that this is possible to do. You don't have to sacrifice motherhood, or you don't have to sacrifice not being a mother, if that's a choice that you're doing, in order to have a career as well, a successful career as well.
Absolutely.
That gets me to the next stage of, when I'm thinking about the path that you have taken, the decisions you have made through your life. And this is a question that I usually ask. I've asked this several times throughout the years myself, and then, from our guests, I ask this question quite often. And this is, if you're looking back, what would you tell your younger self, and what age would you tell that to? Because everybody has a certain point in their life they would like to have given an advice to their younger self. What age would that be for you, and what would you tell yourself?
It's a very nice question. I think I would pick my 20s, and what I would say is dream big, read more, travel more. I think this three, actually, it's just opened my eyes, and I wish I had done that before, like much younger ages, that the age that I did now. And I would also say, believe in yourself and surround yourself with people who believe in you. I think if I had that piece of advice and I took it by heart, I think just my journey would have been different. And I again, have in mind, I'm saying that because I was born and raised in a very small city, right? Maybe the journey was different if I was maybe in Tehran or any bigger city or any bigger country, or not, isolated that much. But that journey helped me, and I was kind of thinking of, I could have done it earlier, or at least knowing that would change my perspective and my objectives, my dreams, I would say.
It's interesting, and you chose a time in your life where people are making a lot of decisions. So I think in our 20s, it's a really crucial time to make the right decisions, or being open to new opportunities. And for you to say, travel, read, experience, and be open, it's very important. I think anyone should be, but particularly women, we should get out of our own way and try to explore and have an open mind. Speaking of reading, I'm curious to hear what books you read, since you would like to have given yourself that advice. Are there any books that impacted your life and decision-making, and you would like to suggest that to our audience?
Absolutely. What I started to do is that every year I challenge myself with the books that I want to read, and I have like a selected list of books in those categories that I mentioned: my professional life, my personal life, my family, and work. And in each category, I want to develop myself and set the objectives. Because of my motherhood, and I'm very busy schedule-wise, and I'm living in a country without support system, so just my schedule is crazy. I cannot really sit and read books, but I love audiobooks. So when I'm like washing the dishes, when I'm doing anything at home, I love that space to listen to books. So that kind of was the context, as because I'm busy, how I'm like reading books, right? But so let's go to the books, the ones that I would honestly think that changed my perspective on various aspects. If it's starting with professional development in terms of, let's say, mindful leadership, Number one book that probably everybody is familiar with is Lean In, Women, Work, and the Will to Lead by Sheryl Sandberg, that the CEO of Facebook. It helped me to understand that even a very successful woman goes through a lot of challenges in her life and personal life, balancing work and life, and that is fine if I do the same, and I need to learn the lesson. So that was one. Another one, and that was very helpful in my career path as a technical woman, I would say, was Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office, that talk about unconscious mistakes that women make that sabotage their career, by Dr. Franklin Lewis. I certainly recommend that for whoever want to step into the journey at workforce. I think even entry level, this would be very helpful for them. I don't know how many you want me to recommend. I have a few of them, and hopefully can maybe comment and give them the note, because if people are not taking a note right now, do you want me to go more, Sepida?
If you want to give a couple, and absolutely, what we will do is when we post it, we'll certainly have those that you are mentioning, those couple that you're mentioning. We will be also adding them as comments when we are posting them out. So, or I would also recommend to our audience, they can reach out to you directly. We'll get your access of where they can reach out to you, and then potentially that way it starts with a good conversation, Soodeh.
Sure.
Maybe they will.
Yes. I'm available on LinkedIn, and I would be very happy to be reached out. So please do so. So let's go for the personal life. I think for the purpose of life, I went through, not me, everybody. We went through 2 years that were extremely difficult in so many aspects. And for me, at some point, I kind of sit down and thought of, what's the purpose of life for me? Like, what are we doing? Like, the life is so difficult. This pandemic is not helpful anymore, and it's just like adding up to our current difficult life. And it was the time that I was listening to a podcast, and a person recommended a book named Chasing the Daylight by O'Kelly. And this book is the last 3 months of the life of the CEO of KPMG. And he was diagnosed with late stage brain cancer. And this book is actually summarizing his life experience in the last 3 months. And it had a very big impact in my life, and setting up the objective for, honestly, my family and health, and what is important for me at the end of the day. And then I loved it, and I probably need to listen to it and read it every year. I would say it's not enough once. And my last book would be on entrepreneurship, and I would recommend the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, who is a former FBA hostage negotiator, that he shares his view on the field-tested approach on negotiation. And I think it's so important for any entrepreneur, but not even entrepreneur, any executive as well, that listen to these best practices. And now whatever movies I watch that is around that negotiation and hostage, I'm like so curious to see how they are negotiating. And so that was also a very good book.
I love it. And so many different types of books, Soodeh, that you just mentioned. And it's really important that we feed our thoughts in all our aspect of our lives. So you just mentioned, from a personal perspective, from a work perspective, a journey perspective, there's so many ways that we can educate ourselves or learn something new. And sometimes, and I believe you touched, when you were talking about the 2 years, you're talking about the pandemic, which has been hard on a lot of people, whether
Yes.
They're still going through it as well. And it's easier to maybe soothe our souls if you read and get into a perspective from other people's lesson learned. So
absolutely,
thank you for that. That was
my pleasure. So, Bijan, another things that I guess I want to highlight is that I also got to get to a habit to read biography of people, whoever I think would be, let's say, considered as a role model for me, if they have a book, right? But the majority of them are, let's say, successful entrepreneurs, successful executive, and like reading or like listening to their biography, especially because most of them talk about it themselves, so they are the one reading the books. It gives me such a good perspective, and living the lives of successful people will help you that at the same situation you already kind of know what to do because you saw the decisions. I think that was also very impactful, and I think I don't need to give the list of people, the books, but just like whoever you think has a potential to be a role model, go and listen to their books if they have.
really good
The majority of them they have.
Yeah, I like that, because if you're looking up to certain people or we want to become them or a form of them, it's great to know what their life was like and what life choices they have made to become who they are today or shape who they become today. Very good advice. I like that. Soodeh, one thing I'm super interested in, and I asked this question because I truly believe in that authenticity that sometimes comes in our life. Is there anything that you truly believe that majority of people disagree with?
Very interesting. I would say yes. One thing is maybe two things, but I'll start with one. I personally believe the future is better than what we think. And I truly believe that because more the technological advancement that are coming, I see them as good things that are happening, and they are not threatening our lives, or because we always want to be better, we want to excel, we want to work on the things that really matters and are impactful. So that's one. The other one is I really believe in longevity, and I'm kind of a nerd there. I read a lot of things about it, and I love the experience of expanding our health span, not necessarily lifespan, but health span, and that kind of eventually, let's say, a more having a life that can be, forever in a way, through technology, right? Through uploading your brain somewhere, and I'm such a person that I want that. So not everybody wants that, but I am. My husband doesn't like it, but I am. So
we all have certain beliefs, and I think that's really great. It brings a new perspective, I think, to life as well, and where we are going today. God knows what's going to be tomorrow, and the innovation that's coming into place. And that is interesting. One thing that I haven't asked you, and I think yours will be a bit different, is your morning routine. Obviously COVID has been around and pandemic has been around for 2 years. And you not only work in the tech ecosystem with all the changes that have come in place, but you're also a mother. I'm curious to hear, what is your routine like? Is it the same, different? What is particular for you, and what is your recommendation to others?
Sure. Yeah, I have a pretty, I think, established routine, I would say, and it's kind of the same even before pandemic in a way. So I wake up very early. I'm an early bird, around 5 a.m. I turn on my phone, and before doing anything, I'm not yet fully opening my eyes, I do a meditation. I do it by Sam Harris. That's the guided meditation via an app named Waking Up. I really like it. It's 10 minutes or 20 minutes. I always, every day, do it. Then I kind of categorize my time based on the things that I already mentioned. So I go to my professional life. I spend some time, I check my LinkedIn. I have a blog. If I need to write some things, I also kind of maybe advance it a little bit. And also I have a passion for photography. So I have an Instagram for that. And I'm not that much active at social media, but for this one, I check if I have any photo to post, etc. That's my hobby. Then I get back to work. I checked always the news that are coming in my domain. I have Google Alert set up for the domain that I want to be master at, following the competitors, following the market. So I read every news that are coming out there at that day, because it's important for my decisions throughout the day. I catch up with my emails that probably everybody do, messages, check my calendar, mentally get prepared for my meetings, and that are quite a lot during the day. Then I get back to my personal life because Sarah is already wake up. It's around 7, and I spend time with her, having breakfast with my family, and then I drop her to her daycare. I got back to work. I always around 8:30 I start my work, and always before jumping into any calls or doing anything, I have like 15 minutes of my time every day writing down the top probably 4 or 5 things that I need to finish today. And I have a very small note and a very big marker to only write down just 5, not more. And then if it's Monday, I actually have a list for the week that I need to accomplish, the objectives of my week. And after that, I start my work. And I always finish at 5 because then Sarah is at home and I want to spend time with her. This was very different maybe years ago, but this because I was like working maybe 18 hours per day. But in my new perspective to life and work, I try to bounded my time, but prioritize my day. And so as an executive, I can finish the things that matter, and I can delegate the things that I should do, and maybe not taking my time that much in meetings and tactical things that anyhow I shouldn't do.
That's awesome. I love the fact that you mentioned, being very mindful of your time and prioritizing and having a set schedule so that you can actually have it all. The balance that you mentioned from work and at home, by having that organized schedule and having things in place and being purposeful definitely makes a difference. Kudos to you. I hope the audience is taking notes on that. I am certainly. Soodeh, the last question I have for you, and I'm sure the audience would love to hear as well, is what do you want to leave on this earth? Maybe a legacy or something that you want to accomplish when you are leaving this earth?
Very thoughtful question. I would say positive impact. And that has multiple dimensions. Maybe the dimension it has on environment, a lot of aspects, I would say. But the most important one, I would say, is a happy next generation. So I want healthy and happy children or child that I have right now, and have impact in their lives.
Beautiful. That was great. Thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Soodeh. It was so beautiful to connect with you and hear your journey. And I know our audience is so inspired by the path that you have taken and the uniqueness of the path that you have taken for your journey of career. And we can't wait to hear the feedback from our audience. How or what is the best way for our audience to get in touch with you if they would like to?
Thank you very much. By the way, it was a great pleasure. The conversation was very interesting for me, and thank you very much for having me. Absolutely through LinkedIn, I would say. I'm pretty active, and I really like to get to know new people and expand my network, because each person has kind of bring a new experience for me. So feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn by my name, Soodeh Farokhi. You can search that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Soodeh Farokhi, for joining us today and inspiring the next generation and current generation of Iranian women in tech. To the audience, thank you for listening in. If this has been inspiring, please follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and also let us know if there are guests you would like to hear from. You can always email us at podcast@persianwomanintech.com. Thanks so much for today, and we look forward to highlighting more successful Iranian women in tech in the future. Have a fantastic day, and again, thank you so much, Dr. Soodeh Farokhi, for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you for joining us this week on P with Shiroz. Make sure to visit our website, PersianWomenInTech.com, where you can subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and SoundCloud so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on our podcast platforms and share the podcast link with friends and help us elevate Iranian women in tech and inspire our community.